Welcome to the Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens podcast. I'm Brandon Jaffe. Join us as we explore relationship and mental health issues by weeding out the trends in the mental health industry to uncover what truly works in improving our emotional well-being and relationships. At Inspired Resolutions Counseling, we specialize in providing interventions and resources for families with teens, focusing on topics such as teen mental health, parenting challenges, and family dynamics.
This episode is a recording of the Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens group. The voices of the participants have been edited out for confidentiality purposes.
And one of the reasons I started this group is because this parenting thing, this parenting journey cannot be done alone, should not be done alone, and is not better alone. And for some of you, you're going, well, that's why you have a partner. Parenting is done better as a community. We get really tripped up, right? We all live different lives. We have different cultures. We have different opportunities. Some people work too much, so they can't possibly put time into making a social life of parents. My dream, my hope is that you guys will somehow connect, at least a few of you, if not all of you. I implore you to reach out to each other with phone numbers, be really awkward, go to lunch, go to coffee, even if you don't know what the heck you're going to say to each other. Don't let yourself be alone in this parenting journey. Now, I'm a really outgoing dude, and I run a parenting group, and I run a business, and I still find myself sometimes as the father of my daughter feeling kind of alone. Feeling like I'm not accepted, like I'm not in the clique that I should be at her school, or, oh my gosh, why didn't my daughter get invited to certain things? Did I do something right? And so some of us have all this angst about wanting to provide our children with the life that we want them to have. But at the end of the day, no matter how rejected I feel, no matter how difficult it is for me to reach out to other parents, no matter how hard it is my duty to not do this parenting thing alone. And man, I can only imagine going through some of the legal stuff, having a partner that took their own life, that was an alcoholic, and then children who are struggling. I can't imagine how alone you felt. I hope you keep coming back to this group. I hope you bug the heck out of somebody at some point here. And I hope that you begin to have lunch, coffee, not to constantly talk about your troubles as a parent, but just so that you don't feel alone. So I don't know how, but if you're somebody who's going, yeah, but I'm too busy, or yeah, but that's just not my personality, I don't care, right? This is for you. This is for your kids. When you can find a way to socialize, to get support in the community, your parenting changes. What you model changes. Your satisfaction with the good things that you're doing changes. Your lack of grace decreases. You're more able to recover. You're more able to see that you're not alone. One of the most powerful things that this group has to offer is not my wisdom, not the concepts that we've developed over years. It is the fact that you're not alone in your most difficult parenting experiences. Your entire identity is not about taking care of your kids. A lot of it is, I get it. But isn't it interesting that the first thing she refers to is that's a good message to hear, because if I'm taken care of, then I can be there for my child, instead of, you know what, I've been working my butt off as a parent. I've gone through hell and back as a parent, and I just simply deserve the support and love. Sometimes it's not about your kids, you're people too. You didn't stop being humans that can come first every now and again just because you chose to have children, right? And that's a mentality shift. I don't know where it came from, but at some point, really good parents got the message that to be a good parent, you can never come first again, and that's just not true. Taking care of yourself does make you a better parent because you model the right things. Your frustration, your anger subside. A reminder that I had recently in my life is that a lot of our frustration and anger and the things that we cannot handle in parenting or in the most important relationships of our life come from a place of I'm scared that things aren't going to turn out well or right or successful. We like to say we just want them to be successful, but we're also scared that our lives are never going to be orderly or okay. It comes from a place of not asking ourselves, what the heck is actually important? Why am I focusing on this right now? Think about how often you get into arguments with your kids because it's what you're supposed to do. And if you really dig in, you're like, I don't know why you're supposed to. Well, I think it's because it makes them a better person growing up. But there's no studies to say in that moment that thing you're focusing on makes your child a better person growing up. The things that we do because we're supposed to, instead of asking ourselves, how important is this right now for me to focus on? Does my anger, does my level of response to this match the actual importance? When you ask yourself, is this important? Is it important right now for me to address in this big way? But we would eliminate a significant portion of your angry reactions if you would just do what? You do this, and you won't feel the need to teach a lesson in the moment of a crisis. Set healthy boundaries. If I set healthy boundaries and I'm consistent with them, and I take accountability for the boundaries that I set, not the punishment, not teaching them a lesson, but I'm responsible for following through with my healthy boundaries that I've set, and I'm consistent, I'm not going to have most of my angry reactions that are unreasonable. I'm going to get angry, I'm going to follow through, I'm going to move on with my life for most of the issues. There are some issues that cannot be addressed with boundaries, but it's mind-blowing what you can do for your own mental health as a parent just simply by being consistent with boundaries. What happens is I at least can remind myself, I have done what I can do, I've controlled the things that I can control, it's time to let go because there's nothing else to do. Boundaries allow me to not speak, just follow through. For those of you who have ever heard, what gave me the idea for the black bag boundary is it was my own mother. She did not like any of my clothes anyways because I had gotten into the trend of buying all of them from the thrift store and I was leaving them everywhere. And she said, I'm putting them in a trash bag and you're not going to have them if I come home and your clothes aren't cleaned up. So I came back and all my clothes were gone. I assumed she was just hiding them, so I was going to wait around. Well, I ran out of clothes. And the other part of the boundary was, if I throw these away, the only clothes I'm giving you money for are ones that I pick out and I buy for you. She, I think, knew I didn't have any money at the time. And I asked her one day, where are my clothes? Can I have them now? Learn my lesson. And she's like, I threw those away. When I figured out that she actually threw them away, I laughed. I'd never fathomed that a parent would throw all their child's clothes away. I think why I laughed is because she wasn't angry. There was no resentment, no anger. Don't get me wrong, man. I got plenty angry when I was young, and we had plenty of problems. But that one thing really stuck out. She took control over the things that she could control, and she followed through. As she tells her story, what I'm imagining is a selfless parent who has gone above and beyond. But I'm assuming you're not thanked on a daily basis for all that you've sacrificed and done and pushed through, right? They're not waking up in the morning going, Mom, you're amazing. It's probably the opposite, right? For you parents who have sacrificed a lot, but you've done it in a way that protects your children the best that you can, you aren't being appreciated a lot of times. Now, when do we wait to hopefully be appreciated? Does anybody remember? Age 30. So don't even expect to be thanked until they're at least 30. It's got to be terrible to go through what you've gone through, do what you've done, probably sacrifice what you've sacrificed, and still you've got an angry child who's angry with you, which I assume means you guys are fighting and not getting along at home. Can anybody relate to, I sacrifice, try to build this life for my child, and I'm met with being angry. They're angry at me. Can anybody identify with that piece of her story? It's that conundrum. And then sometimes your kids even have the gall to tell you what a terrible parent you are. And you're going, if you only knew. And then some of you second guess, maybe I am a terrible parent. And nobody on this call, some parents out there really are terrible parents who think they're awesome parents. For those of you, the type of person that shows up to this group, you're most likely a really good parent who's probably gotten mad when you wish you didn't get mad, or maybe would tweak some things here and there, but you're probably not very appreciated for everything that you do. And you're probably nitpicked for the things that they think that you do wrong. In fact, you're probably attacked for some of your best parenting moments. And I see a lot of heads shaking right now because that's a part of the parenting journey that just sucks. And I'm sorry that you go through that. That's horrible. And I want you to take a step back real quick, because the last people that we use to assess how well we're doing at parenting is our children who are going through really difficult times. We assess our parenting based on how many healthy decisions did we make? Did we remain calm? Did we participate in the insane conversation, or didn't we? Are we setting boundaries and following through? Are we making amends? Are we taking accountability? Are we able to be happy even though things are really frustrating? And that's a message. I don't know how you guys are going to get happy. I don't know if you're happy right now in other areas of your life. But no matter how attacked you are by your kids, it is your duty to find a way to cope and be okay. And there's this mentality that parents have where they think that they can't be okay until they get their children okay. And I hear that constantly when parents call us to get help for their child. And that's not the healthy mentality. The mentality is, I'm going to offer my child resources, love on them unconditionally, while make sure that I'm okay while they figure their life out. I am so glad you're here tonight and you belong in this group, and you just brought up two awesome concepts. I'm going to kind of intertwine a concept. She said her child is angry and now she is angry. Being angry is okay. Being angry is momentary. Sometimes parents don't realize that they're actually resentful. And it's so easy as a parent to say, well, I'm not resentful. It's just I got to get my child to lunch. Well, I'm not resentful. It's just my child refuses to do this and refuses to do that, and they're just so bad off. And I get that. That plays into the fear. I can't let my child treat me this way. I get that too. We want to set boundaries regarding those things. But it is your duty to not be resentful and to take care of your anger quickly. It is your duty to not be resentful and to take care of your anger quickly and to take care of all 6 of your pillars so that your being okay isn't based on your child being okay. People all around the world find happiness in the most wild situations with the most chaotic things going on around them. Yet we like to use that as an excuse. I can't be okay until the chaos is gone. No. I don't know how you're going to find a way to be okay, but you've got to be okay regardless. You don't get to build resentments if you want to be a healthy, happy parent. And that's a tall order for me to say. I get it. I'm somebody who wants my house clean. I want my house not chaotic. I like my peace. I like my things the way that they are. And I've only got one daughter, so it's easy for me to say. I get it. However, here's the thing. It is our job as parents, no matter what, to find happiness regardless of our situation. Sick, poor, abused. I hate even saying that. It's such a horrible situation. It is our job to set boundaries in a way that we can find happiness if the current situation, it's impossible to find happiness. If you are a parent going, yeah, but I try to have a lighthearted conversation with my child, and it always turns into anger. Anybody relate to that? I get that. I get it. And your child might have a terrible disposition, and you might not just be you. They might argue with everybody because they're in a bad place. It's your job to figure out how to be around them, walk alongside them without participating in that insanity. I didn't say that you're going to find a way to make them happy. I said, you've got to find a way to be happy around them. I didn't say that you're going to be able to find a way to have conversations with them, because they might not be able to communicate, and they might be in such a bad season that no matter what anybody says to them, they're going to start an argument. It's your job to continuously invite them in a healthy way to be on your side of happiness, but set boundaries when they bring chaos. And you are going to probably go through seasons, if your child's really struggling, seasons where you are separate. But it's your job not to be miserable in that separation, right? And I envision my child's in their room. They seem miserable. If they would just walk out, they'd see how happy things are, the culture, the happiness, the music, the dancing, right? And I know you can't turn your entire house into a musical at all times, but I want you to think musical. Like, why can't I be walking around happy regardless of my child? Because I'm telling you that's your duty. And I can hear some of you going, that's theoretically great, Brandon, but I love what you just said. You were in a place where you weren't making a difference in your daughter's life. The relationship wasn't good. You were being attacked. You weren't happy because the home life wasn't good. The interactions weren't good. And it didn't help trying to get your daughter help. What helped was you separating yourself, finding friends, finding hobbies, finding a life, setting boundaries in other areas of your life, making time for yourself, getting healthy. And once you did that, even though things aren't perfect, your daughter sought you out. You were able not to fix it by addressing the issues in her daughter. She was able to improve that relationship by improving her relationship with herself. That's powerful, you guys. That's important. Let's talk about the failure to launch issue. Who's either afraid of that or experiencing something like that? Okay, so like all of you. The failure to launch. Has anybody ever seen that movie? That movie is interesting because it was kind of like his own relationship issues and decision to not launch. I want you to really think about that because a failure to launch is felt most by who? The parents. Isn't that mind-blowing? The failure to launch is an issue that we define as being bad for our kids, yet the issue of failure to launch is really bad for marriages, it's bad for the parents, and it's really good and easy for the kids. Sure, they complain about it, but it's really not a problem for them. There's this other weird concept that I like to introduce, and that's this failure to launch thing is a really new thing in the history of the world because it's only recent in the history of the world that we really want our kids to get the heck out. In some cultures, families just stayed together in the same place. This whole failure to launch thing is actually an issue specific to our current society and desires, and really wealth. And I like to say that when I talk about this issue so that we can put things into perspective. If I told you, hey, you know what? Your child who you really get along with and love and likes you is going to live with you, and they're actually going to take care of the cooking and cleaning because they just want you to live the rest of your days out enjoying, and they're actually going to pay for an addition on the house so that they're not bugging you. You'd all be like, well, maybe that would be great. But you see, the issue is not that they live with you. The issue is that there's contention. The issue is that you're enabling. The issue is that you don't have boundaries. The issue is that you resent what you give them while they live in your home, not appreciating you, not making it fun for you, not making it a pleasant experience for them to cohabitate with you. That's the actual issue. I want my child to be independent, which means I want my child to be able to provide for him or herself, is the issue. I resent them if they live at home while watching them be enabled and not able to provide for themselves. That's the issue. A lot of parents need their children to leave so that they don't resent their children while their children make different decisions than they think that they should make. In fact, I just had a set of parents who decided that they were going to pay for an apartment for their child so that they didn't have to watch their child make terrible decisions all day long, because it was much healthier for them to do that way over there where they didn't have to think about it every day rather than at their home. Some people in this world say that's terrible, that's enabling. Well, these people are not going to kick them out of the house. They have the means to do this. So I would say, are you kidding me? Like, you're going to enable them anyways. At least enable them in a way that you can enjoy. At least enable them in a way that's going to protect the relationship. And I asked these parents a very specific question. Does anybody know what I asked them? I said, can you do this indefinitely? And they looked at me and they said, absolutely, Brandon. In fact, we have an entire trust set up because we don't think he's ever going to be able to take care of himself. And I said, cool, good for you. Yeah, but so-and-so said we're enabling. Yeah, no, I would say that's enabling. But we're afraid if we don't enable, this is what's going to happen. Okay, I don't know if that's going to happen and your child's going to suffer in that way if you don't do this. But the failure to launch, I am redefining tonight. There are other sub-issues. It's not that your child can become successful, can become independent in your home or out of your home. is important. When you feel like you're struggling with this whole failure to launch issue, what you need to ask yourself is, am I not setting boundaries that I should be setting for my own happiness? Am I feeling guilty because I know that I'm enabling my child, contributing to them not finding happiness and not being independent someday? Am I suffering because of the resources that I'm giving instead of giving the resources that I can give in a healthy way? And then ask yourself, do I have a problem with this because my child is either mistreating or possibly even being emotionally abusive to me? Is this an issue because it's ruining my marriage? Those are all issues to address in and of themselves rather than just globally saying, oh, my child's failure to launch. Because again, if your child is providing for himself, right? In the Failure to Launch movie, there was no issue of providing for himself. I think he was some really successful dude, actually, right? He wasn't mean to his parents. But a lot of you that bring this issue in our doors, what's happening is you're enabling and you feel guilty. You don't have boundaries and you're being emotionally abused and you're not doing anything about it. Your marriages are suffering and you don't feel like you can take a breath to address that really important relationship that should now be coming before your parenting. And so I want you to really think about that. Some of your fears are just insane. I'm afraid that my child's not going to be successful because they're messy. By the way, most people out there are really messy. I've been in their homes. I know that most people are messy out there because dishes and messiness, I know at least half of you are messy out there because dishes and messiness come into every single couple's session I've ever had. Here's what you're afraid of, really, if I break it down. You had a long list of things, but it really comes down to him not being able to provide for himself and him not being able to take care of the house in an orderly fashion. And really, what you're worried about is he going to be able to show up to a job enough to make enough money? I don't know. What I do know is I've heard story after story of parents who can't get their child to do something, then they get that one mentor or they get that one job and they just knock it out of the park. What I do hear is story after story of parents telling me, man, everywhere else they're like amazing. It's only for us that they're terrible. There are some people out there who completely fail at life. I get it. I don't know if it's going to be your children. Statistically, they're probably going to be okay. Not in the way that you want them to be okay. You're probably going to judge them the rest of your life. We just hope that your judgment doesn't get in the way of your relationship with them. And it's going to be hard if your child fails at life. It's going to be hard if they keep losing job after job after job. This popped into my head, forgive me, but I want to say it. It's not going to help you at all. You know what's worse for parents than their child failing? And none of you are going to admit to this. I swear to you, you're going to say that it wouldn't be you, but it is totally you. What's worse is when a child never listens to their parent, never changes their way, and then ends up being more successful financially and happier than their parent. That is something that just, it kills parents, but you'll never admit it. I only know that because I'm a therapist and I've processed things with some parents that have that. And that's a humility, a humble attitude that you need to take. You have a lot to teach your child, but you don't know everything. All you can do is choose not to enable them, give them the lessons that you want to give them, love on them unconditionally, and take care of your end of the street when it comes to relationship. I'm glad you asked that. So the question is, but how do you motivate your child who's getting F's and D's or C's or whatever it might be? Because, and again, that question comes from an assumption that is your role at this point of their life. And I'm telling you that is not your role at this point of their lives. My role with my 5-year-old is I need to teach her and hopefully, instill habits that make it more likely that she's motivated down the road for the right things and everything. And I'm still in that stage. But even with a 5-year-old, I only have so much control. I can't motivate her to do a lot of things. I can sign her up for gymnastics. I'm not going to be that parent that's dragging her by the ears and forces her to do something that way. I'll tell her that there's consequences. I'll set boundaries. I've told you guys before, I still am in the stage where punishment works, right? And rewards work. In fact, I have the most amazing reward right now that's only going to work, I think, for like another month. Have you guys ever heard of the bomb pops? They're these popsicles that have been around since I was a kid. Right now, if I offer my daughter a bomb pop, I can get her to do almost anything. Now that's going to go away. That means that I can motivate her through punishment and reward right now. However, she's allowing herself to be motivated by those things. The question I get asked the most is not about depression. It's not about anxiety. And I get asked this question from individuals and parents. How do I motivate my child? How do I motivate myself? I get asked that question more. I've been asked that question more in the last 20 whatever years that I've been practicing as a therapist than any other question. The idea of we've got to motivate ourselves. You can influence your child. You cannot motivate your child. You can model happiness and success and healthy habits for your child. You can teach them, but you cannot motivate them to follow through. You can follow through with boundaries, which might influence more motivation down the road, but you cannot take responsibility for them being motivated to get better grades, to do better in sports, to take care of their mental health, to eat healthy, to eat right. And that is a conundrum. That is an issue that every parent really, really, really struggles with. If you could just find a way to motivate your child, they wouldn't have to suffer. Well, I'm going to ask you guys something. As individuals, forget about being a parent. Just think of yourself as an individual that's not a parent with. So think about all the other issues you have, whether it's motivating yourself to follow through at work, motivating yourself to start that business you always wanted to start, motivating yourself to read the book that you wanted to read, to go to the workout that you wanted to go to stop eating the things that you want to stop eating, to stop drinking as much, to stop yelling as much. I want to ask you, has anybody found a way to motivate yourself to do the things that you want to do, that you find it hard to do? I don't see any hands up. Every question I've asked you guys so far, every hand almost has gone up. The issue of finding motivation when it's difficult to find motivation is an issue for humans that has existed since humans began, since before we communicated. Motivation is a hard thing to find. Industries are built on this. The entire fitness industry is built on we'll find a way to motivate you, whether you think so or not. The whole life coaching issue is I've got some secrets to make you motivated when you're not very motivated. I'm a therapist. I don't know how to motivate you. I will not tell you I can motivate you. I'm definitely not going to tell you I have a secret to motivate your children when they don't want to be motivated. In fact, we teach something different here. We teach habits, routines, psychological concepts. We use research-based theory in order to help people function when they don't feel motivated. Because functioning when you feel motivated is irrelevant. It's can I be consistent even when I'm not motivated? Motivation is a fleeting dopamine-induced state. What I will help you do, sir, is I will help you learn to walk alongside your child even when she refuses to find motivation and not damage your relationship with her. I will help you optimize the influence that you do have, which at most is 11%. I can help you influence them. They are more likely to find motivation more often in their life if they have healthy parents around them. They are more likely to have little stints of being motivated to do things like school when they go, oh my gosh, my parents are happy. They went to school. They have good jobs. I want to be like them. They're less likely to find motivation for the things that you want them to have motivation for when they say, my parents suck. My parents' life sucks. I don't want to be anything like my parents. And they're saying they went to school and then got a job. I'm definitely not doing that. You can influence your child at this state. You cannot manufacture motivation. You cannot live their journey for them. You can protect your side of the relationship. You cannot protect their side of the relationship. You can be consistent in your boundary setting. You cannot make them make good choices. And any therapist or professional that tells you there's some secret way to do that is a fool and probably raised a really compliant child and is taking too much credit for their child's success. I don't want you to give up on setting boundaries. Parents get too focused on trying to control the behavior right now in the moment instead of, I'm going to play the long game. I'm going to figure out how to be consistent with boundaries. I'm going to figure out how to have a better temperament in my reactions even when they're failing miserable. I'm going to figure out how to show that I can be happy and I can be okay. I'm going to say to you, if you're experiencing that with your child right now, you deserve a break. You deserve for you to take care of you and take some of the resources that you have to find happiness while you walk alongside your really difficult, struggling child. And oddly enough, you taking care of you while you walk alongside your child is going to be the best decision you ever made for your child at this point. Do you know how many parents and marriages have fallen apart and been obliterated because they're living their child's journey and they can't get over watching their child fail? I have my problems in life. I have my mistakes still till this day. There are some things that I need to work on, but I'm doing all right? I'm a product of endless failure. I never stop failing. Some of you guys are teaching your kids that failure is not acceptable because you equate failure with the death of their potential. Some of you will enable over here, so you don't really let them fail, but then you get angry and ruin your relationship with them because they failed and because they won't listen to you, all while ruining the relationship and ruining your own life. And then you wonder why nothing's changing. I'm really lucky. I'm one of the luckiest men on the face of the planet. And one of the reasons I'm so lucky is I have two people in my life that I want to be like. And it's not because of their success necessarily, because I know people who are actually more successful than them, financially anyway. It's because they are two of the happiest people on the face of the planet. And they have gone through hell. I'm not saying they're always happy. They get angry. They've had some troubles. They've made some mistakes. Till this day, they're struggling with some family stuff. But they're two of the happiest people I know. And those two people are my parents. I have caused some of the pain in their life. I've watched them go through some pain in their life. I've watched them go through things like cancer, thinking they're going to die, to struggles with their kids, to financial stuff, to successes. And what I've seen is a consistent contentment, because their contentment is not based in their children. It is not based in their money. Their contentment and happiness, and I realized this somewhere around the age of 30, was based in a whole lot more. They're two of the happiest people I know. Therefore, I have spent the last 15 years trying to figure out what they've done so right. And I am going after it. I'm telling you right now, you want to motivate your daughter, you become the happiest person she knows, not the most successful person. You protect your end of the relationship and think, whether you're Christian or not, think prodigal son. Have the attitude of, I'm here. I got boundaries. You're not bringing the chaos into my home, but I will celebrate you and love you when you walk across that threshold, leaving all the junk out there. I will not resent you. I will not hold your mistakes against you. I will be sad. I will be angry when you make these mistakes, but I will protect myself from you and love on you all at the same time. And you will not ruin my house, so to speak. A lot of people don't realize that in the prodigal son story. He took the resources his father gave him, squandered them, and ruined his own life out there. What he was never allowed to do was bring that back home. Isn't it funny? A lot of you allow that to come into your home, then you resent your children, and then you don't have the boundaries, then you're miserable, they're miserable, they hate you, you hate them, you don't want to admit that you hate them, and it's just this big ball of mass. Instead of keeping those boundaries, being unconditional and loving on them, having the state of mind of, I wish you would come back to me now, but I will wait for you to come back to me. And in the meantime, I'm going to get my house, my soul, my habits, my happiness in order. And I challenge you guys to think about, what are you putting off in terms of taking care of yourself because you're so worried about your child? How much effort are you wasting trying to fix your child and get them to fix themselves when you could have been putting it in to having a happier home, having a happier marriage, having a happier body to live in, having a happier mind yourself? Are you as resilient as you're trying to make your child? Resiliency is something we really have been focusing this year on at Inspired Resolutions. It's a concept that gets thrown around these days. If you have something like traumatic happen to you, we automatically say you're resilient. That's just not true. I want you guys to ask yourself, are you resilient? Resilient people find contentment and happiness in the most difficult of times with chaos going on around them. What if we were focused more on being resilient parents rather than parents who change our children? What comes to mind for you? I'd like to hear from at least a couple people. I like that attitude, and I'm glad you brought that up. If you're a resilient, healthy parent, your children aren't necessarily going to give you the feedback, oh, wow, you're really resilient and healthy, thank you. When you start taking care of your 6 pillars, when you start building yourself up while walking alongside your child, at some point your child might say, oh, you're taking care of you, you must not love me. If your child says, I'm not feeling loved by you, I want you to always take pause. But if it's, I'm not feeling loved by you because you're taking care of yourself and you're not enabling me anymore, then I want you to let it go. Let that play out without resenting them, without having to prove yourself to them. You don't need to explain your healthy living as long as you're being healthy. If you're taking care of yourself at their expense, which I've experienced with some parents, especially court-appointed parents, that's different than I'm taking care of myself and I've either stopped enabling or it's not changing your life. It's only improving mine. That is healthy. Tell your children you love them consistently, even when they can't give that back to you. Love on them in the healthy ways that we've talked about. Provide resources for them. Go above and beyond. I'm all down for you sacrificing as long as you don't resent and as long as it doesn't cross that line into enabling. But remember that your child is not equipped, nor are they in a role with you to provide completely accurate feedback and assessment of your healthy parenting. And sometimes, especially if your child is used to being enabled, they are going to be angry with you for being healthy. You don't have to be okay and like that they're angry with you for being healthy, but you do have to get over it in a way that's healthy and doesn't lead to resentment. And then remember, most likely by the time they turn 30, they're going to get over it and not resent you anymore for being healthy. Your children will seek you out, even if you have healthy boundaries, and stop enabling them, if you are content and happy in somebody that they admire, somebody that, they don't have to want to be like you and have your job. But if you're somebody that takes pop shots, makes little poor me comments, somebody who responds in an angry way constantly, has an attitude back to them, constantly nitpicks, is just not fun to be around, is moody because of work, then they're not going to seek you out. You're never going to get the pleasure of them seeking you out. I couldn't stand my parents when I was 17. I tolerated them when I was 20-something. They are my 2 best friends in the entire world today. I don't want to hang out with them because I'm obligated to. They are the 2 people I want to hang out a lot of times with first. I want that for you guys. I want that for myself. We don't get that by enabling. We don't get that by not having boundaries. We don't get that by taking it personally that they don't like us right now during this season of life. We get that by being consistent with our boundaries, by having our 6 pillars in alignment, by building friendships and relationships. So when you ask me, how do I motivate my child? I'm going to tell you, you don't motivate your child. You find a way to do healthy habits, healthy relationship, have healthy routines for yourself, your marriage, your friendships, your hobbies, your career, so that you can influence your child in the long run. You might have to watch your child struggling greatly to find motivation, and I'm sorry, that's going to hurt. But it's not yours to carry, it's theirs to carry. It's yours to walk alongside.
The Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens podcast is an Inspired Resolutions production. Hosted by Brandon Jaffe. Edited and mixed by Natalie Atkinson. Music by Natalie and Sean Atkinson. Inspired Resolutions Counseling is based in Yorba Linda, California. Whether you're interested in joining our group, seeking therapy services, or exploring more of our resources, you can find us on our website, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at Inspired Resolutions Counseling.